the traditional which should actually bring our case to a close, and we ask the People's Court to find that the companies do not have any authority beyond our land, and they should quit our land in Malawi and in South Africa today and wind up their operations. Thank you. Over to the other side to see what they will say.
The money. Back our money. You don't want to go right. Don't compromise, man. Don't talk to this guy.
Thank you very much. Good morning, court. This court is not responding. Does it mean they have made a judgment? I expect this court to be very impartial and to listen to us carefully as we present the case for the corporates. Allow me to begin by saying we sympathize with some of the witnesses that have given evidence here. I had one who was a chief and ended up being a laborer in a mine. We really sympathize with the change of fortunes. And again, hope very much that things will be better. So in making our submissions as corporates, I wish to begin by saying one thing, that we all come from countries, and these countries are sovereign. As such, if we have countries that are sovereign, most of them are led by laws. One, we begin from the Grundnorm, which happens to be the constitution of the various countries. And I believe from all of us, where we come from, call it Malawi, call it South Africa, and South Africa being, a witness in this court, has one of the most progressive constitutions in this continent. From the constitutions that we do have, we have gone down lower and we have legislations. And this legislation in these legislations in the African continent, all of them are written down. We do not have any unwritten laws in this continent. Secondly, I just want to examine what is the role of these laws and why would we have these laws in our respective countries. And the rationale behind these laws is just threefold. One, we have laws to deter human behavior. Secondly, we have laws to incentivize also human behavior. If we want investors to come in our country, we do give a little bit of incentives so that they can find it easier to do business in our country, or else they could go to other countries. But lastly, we have laws that regulate. And laws that regulate ensure that one party does not take advantage of another party while it carries out its duties. Today in our case, and the gist of our case will be that us corporates are not saints. Us corporates have the interest of the community at heart, but while at the same time, we try to make profits. We try. No company can thrive in a situation where it has hostile neighbors, and no company can thrive where it cannot relate with even the government officials. And as such, we need the three parties working together for a common good. Now, just to go back a little bit and understand this mining that has been demonized. Today, each one of you, when you woke up in the morning, the first thing you did was maybe listen to an alarm that woke you up. I know some of you are early risers, so the alarm was used to wake you up.
It was the chicken.
This I will kindly ask the coach to protect me as I make my phone, which means for no further until
You are protected.
So kindly allow me to make that. But immediately after that, if you were not working with an alarm, immediately you woke up, you put on a switch, and that is power. That power to come to your room, there's a lot of copper and work that has been done to get that copper into your, to get that power into your room. From the copper smelting and everything up to those wires go overhead to bring that power. So essentially, what we are saying is that mining, our livelihood depends on mining. I have not seen anybody here dressed the way our forefathers used to dress. And so I believe we are not going back to where our forefathers are. And as such, we have to embrace mining. It powers our economies, it employs our youth, and going forward, the future and the protection, the livelihood, and the existence of the human race depends on mining. Now, the mining companies have been demonized, but I want us to take also, a step backwards and ask ourselves, what is the average cost of starting one mining? As that sinks, my statistics tell me, and just reading from the literature, averagely, it takes around the range of 50 million US dollars to up to $1 billion US dollars to come up with one mine. And I know we agree on this. Secondly, when a mining company starts, and from that is from the prospecting stage, up to the time this company is able to start exporting whatever it is mining, call it copper, lithium, or that, it takes an average of around 10 years for a company to actually start exporting. All this time long, that company is putting in time, it's putting labor, it's putting in all its finances into that. And we've heard from the last presentations as the speakers who have spoken here, finance is not an easy thing to get. And that's why in most instances, we don't have these companies coming from Africa. We get companies that come from Europe, and they're able to put in their money through their banks to come and prospect and explore and extract minerals in Africa. One, our case, from what has been presented in this case, for us, what has been presented, apart from some of the things I would wish this honorable public court to ignore, things like sex and all that in the community, we would wish that to be expanded. Don't think about that. We are presenting a case factually. And so we want to say this, that on matters, I would wish to respond on the issue of tax evasion and say that our companies and the responsible companies that we do have and represent here today do not evade taxes. One reason why I'm saying that, it takes all the government agencies, from the mining ministry to the tax revenue, to the revenue authorities, for them to inspect and verify the value of the minerals. It is not a sole duty of a company to come and tell government that we have produced 10 grams of gold. That cannot hold water. We need the inspector from government and the various government agencies. If any of you knows what normally happens in a gold room, some of you are experts in this and you can tell me, is that we always have representatives, even from the communities, in, for example, a gold room, when these things and reports are taken up. So there is no way that a company is going to report a different value from what has been assessed and reported by the tax evaluators. Some of the countries, and I'm happy that you mentioned one of the complainants here coming from South Africa mentioned that in South Africa, companies are evading taxes. But I wish to say that and ask you to also go and look that South Africa has one of the best and new information system that allows government agencies to share information in real time. And a number of companies, a number of countries right now, that is including Guinea and Sierra Leone, have started these government interagencies where they ensure the inspection for the mines all through the supply chain. So leaving no room to say that tax evasion is being aided by the mining companies. Tax evasion, the majority of it is done by illegal miners, something which we can have a discussion on another time. When these companies come into place, they don't bring themselves here. And remember, that's why I spoke about the sovereignty. Right now, our government officials are seated somewhere and trying to entice somebody somewhere to put in $1 billion to come into the country so that they're able to extract minerals. When they do that, these treaties are signed and they're skewed to favor maybe mining companies, kindly the person to speak to, the person to complain to is the government, and I hope the government will be able to explain that. Lastly, I just wish to quickly go through two things first. The case that was presented was a bit heavy, so I believe I can be allowed an extra few minutes so that we leave here knowing that companies are not anti-people. Anyway, let me say this. One of the rules that we do have in some of the jurisdictions that we have gone around and seen is the issue of the engagement of the community. I'll give an example. Where I come from in Kenya, there is a rule that in the Mining Act that when a company comes in, it has to enter into community development agreements. And these community development agreements design and structure the future of how the engagement between the companies and the local communities are supposed to be guided. When they come up with these communities, it is the community who appoint the committee members. So the company, what they come up are development projects and what they feel is a priority for that community. And that's a good case model because on top of the royalties and taxes that these companies pay, 1% of that, 1% of their profits go to the community development agreement committees, so the committees that have been designed. And they allocate depending on the need and priorities of the different communities. So I am afraid that if that is not happening in some of the respective countries, there is an area that we need to explore in terms of legal reforms. Secondly, the issue of human rights. When we speak to our clients seated here, we normally advise them that first, you need to have a community liaison person as a go-to person to handle complaints that are coming from the community. So we believe all our clients have that, and even some of them have gone ahead because maybe going into where the companies have their mining sites and all that can be daunting. Some of the companies have actually gone ahead and opened an office just outside wherever they operate so that they receive complaints and are able to address that. And that does not stop anyone to sue these companies when they go wrong. But we believe these companies, since they are responsible, they don't want also their reputation. No company wants to see its reputation in tatters and announced in newspapers all over. Just to wind up, last year this issue has become. No, I have to. Finally, the last thing I want to say is the issue of land, and this is very important. To say that the land companies, mining companies do not handle the issue of land compensation. Land compensation in most jurisdictions, and I believe a number of them, are handled by government departments. It is the government that does assessment, it is the government that ensures the redress is done. Companies never pay money directly to the victims, to the victims of that area. That is work that is done by government. All it does is to give that money to government. Before I conclude,
my friend,
I
Sorry, God, we will be going on this very shortly. To consider the arguments, and you will give your judgment. But for us to be able to proceed, let us hear from the lawyer appointed by government, State Council. Their witness has disappeared.
My lords and my ladies, if we please this court, I would like to make my humble submission. A lot has been said. We have heard from the communities and we have heard from the corporate lawyer. And I just want to take this opportunity, my lords and my ladies, to just ask the court for more time and my witness will show up. My lords and my ladies. Secondly, my lords and my ladies, let it not be mistaken in this court of law that as the government, we are the agents of the people. We love and respect our people. You appointed the government for a reason, and we are always fighting for your needs. Therefore, I would just like to respond to some of the issues that have been raised by the community. On the issue of compensation, the community is claiming that they were not adequately compensated. Well, did you make that formal complaint to the government? Because our main aim is to make sure that when we do our compulsory acquisition, we make sure that you're adequately compensated. But this complaint did not make it to us. We are hearing it in this court of law for the first time. Secondly, on the issue of sickness, claiming that you suspect that the water is making you sick. But there is no evidence in this court. There is no doctor and there is no research that has been presented in this court of law to show that it is this water that is causing the sickness. Do you have the water sample? My lord and my king, this evidence has not been presented in this court of law. Therefore, let it not be admitted as evidence. On the issue of local content, my lords and my ladies, the government is keen on making sure that the community benefits from the mining that is taking place in the community. But we cannot do this immediately. We have to mine and sell and come and invest back in the community. So at this time, we ask for more time. You cannot ask, we are a poor country. We cannot invest back in the community. We are also struggling.
We need investment.
They are open for this. Thank you, Lord. So, even as the community claims that we are given money to keep quiet, we are not quiet. No one paid us to keep quiet because we are always fighting for your needs. Even in those boardrooms when we are negotiating this contract, we are thinking about you. Yes. We are open for business. My daughter, my name is on the issue of tax incentives. It is true. We provided a tax holiday for these companies. But you see, even the community has stated, hasn't the GDP improved? You said yourself that the GDP has improved. That is the most important thing. We want to make our economy better. So even as we give them the tax holidays, you people are employed and you pay the taxes to the government, especially the tax you need. So when you talk about illegal mining, my lord and my ladies, take note that our community cannot declare a process illegal. They're not the regulators, we are the regulators. So if we do not term it as illegal, then it is not illegal. Due process was followed, we established the legal framework, due process was followed, and we issued the licensing. Therefore, my lords and my ladies, do not admit this as evidence. Lastly, and just because of time, a lot has been said by my co-counsel here. And my lords and my ladies, please take into account everything that has been said by my co-counsel here, because they have made a very, very important argument. Therefore, lastly, when you say you do not want this mining in your community, it is your relatives, it is your friends, and it is your neighbors who are employed in the mines. Therefore, this mining is very important for employment of our youth and empowerment of the community. That is my submission, my lords and my ladies. Thank you.
On this side, you are just holding our head.
They are praying for you, don't worry.
But the government and the conference was celebrating. Now, we go into a court to allow the people's court to take coffee, but also to consider and come back with judgment or a ruling. So we will now take a break. The people's court has taken a recess. Okay, stop. Wait for a second. That is the end of the people's court. That's just the recess. Now we head to the break. We take tea on the ground floor. Now I'm no longer the lawyer, just the moderator. I was not pleased enough. You see the way things are happening. I'm moving around. Anyway, yeah. So that is how I set up myself. I chose the wrong side. Okay. So we have to break. Please take this announcement with a little bit more clarity. When we go for the break, immediately you're done taking your tea, taking a stretch, we'll give it 10 minutes. The idea labs are starting. So we request the moderators for the idea labs to go into their rooms, get set up, so that by the time that people are done taking their tea, you can be able to start. The idea labs that will start earlier will get more people. That goes without saying. So the moderators, the pressure is on you. Get yourself organized, get your room ready, and start off at the earliest possible time. In the idea labs, please ensure that you go for lunch at 1300 hours. So moderators, please make a point. Make sure that whatever happens, whether you need to continue the conversation over lunch or take some questions in the lobby, we go for lunch at 1300 hours. So with that, you have now earned your cup of coffee, your juice, your water, and your stretch, and we'll see you back because after lunch, we go into the next set of ideas, and we see you back in the room at 3 p.m. for the closing panel. Are we on the same page? So the moderators for the idea labs after lunch get into your rooms at 2 p.m. or some minutes before 2 p.m., get organized, and we see you back at 3 p.m. I think you deserve to give yourselves a big, big clap for having been an awesome conference. We see you back in the room for the closing plenary at 3. Idea lab moderators, over to you.
Thank you.